We're back. It's the doctor's surgery. We do it from 8 until 11, or I should say, when we get in the studio in the morning until 11. This morning was really bad. The traffic was really bad. As soon as it looked at the rain, London turned upside down. So yeah, I apologize. And as you know, because of the COVID-19 restrictions, the government has given local authorities certain bursaries to close certain streets. So whoa, let me get it out. They're funneling in, oh, God, that's what I'm saying.
Funneling.
Funneling, I mean, that funnel, Lynn, yeah, that's it. Yeah, they funnel in all the traffic through one spot. So it just makes it chaotic and crazy. You're wondering why they've done that? There's new cameras out there. Have you seen them? Facial recognition and all that stuff taking place, even though the rules are changed around that. Think about it. If you spot any of those new cameras, let us know. Anyway, we're not here to talk about all of the conspiracy stuff. We're here to talk about mending us as a people and growing, right? So we can have a united front, a united argument, a united way forward during these chaotic times, right? So we all have to be on the same page. So we only can achieve that through discussion and understanding and mutual respect for each other. So the topic has been wide based this morning. We had a caller during the break that wanted me to highlight a couple things about what we've been talking about Alexandra, Miss Wilson, the female barrister that we were talking about before the break. If you're just tuning in, Miss Wilson went to court and was subjugated to several prejudicial behaviors over a sequential period in a very short space of time, which really impacted on her, and so she came out with it. The caller wanted to highlight, that she's already got a book. I don't know. She's already written a book on it, and that perhaps there's some other agenda there, where this is not something that's new. So why now? And has she before spoken up about it? Why not before and highlighted it before, or being supportive of others before, including the defendants that have been there before? But why now? Is it to really push forward that book? I don't know if she's got a book. Conveying the message as received. So if you guys know a little bit more about that, if anyone knows a bit more about that, I'd love to interview her, but I don't know if she'll give me an interview. What I mean? Interview us on this lowly black station. Miss Wilson, you out there, give us a call. 0753 I'll give it again. 0753 let me help you plug your book, if so be the case. Let's talk. But yeah, so that's what we were talking about. And then on another note, the caller highlighted, female caller, she was quite eloquent in her speech. She said, one of the things that she doesn't like, and she understands that other women like, that would be really helpful for men, is that compliments, that men refrain from giving women compliments about their figures, but more so giving compliments about their characters, a woman's character. And I think it's a very important statement. The producer disagreed because the producer wanted to have that balancement that, you have to give respect and reverence to Black beauty as well as Black mentality. Um, However, what the caller highlighted is it's very important and essential in the sense that, you know, we we have to encourage good content of character in women. And by complementing positive character attributes, you raise that female goddess back to her seat of power. In the sense that if you're constantly just commenting on sexualized attributes of women, then it just belittles her to sex and sexuality. But if you raise a woman up mentally and let her know that you're also focusing on her intellectual ability and her ability to be a strong person mentally and rise above certain things and be and have good steed and character, then you're really raising up a leader for a nation once more. And I say once more, not that it's not there, but it's that we've lost so many sisters to the twerking disease. You know what I mean? Not to say that some people don't love the twerking disease, but we have to raise them mentally as well. So it's not just about always overt and extreme overt sexuality. That's fine. We understand that aspect of human nature, but also show that mental prowess that you have as well, sis. Don't just be ratchet. Go ahead.
I think as well, it's also that element of suppressing black women's sexuality, and that's where you get that pendulum now, where it was like 1 minute it was suppressed so bad, and now it's like it's gone against that grain to the extreme.
That's a whole different show. But I thought about including that topic here in this week's conversation. But because it's an early morning show, and the time period that's chosen for the early morning show is to include the children, I would have to really pick carefully a lot of the key essential aspects of things, and I don't think I'm able to do that as yet. I can eventually, but I have to make sure that if I fine tune what the points I'm going to say using the right words, so that even if a young mind hears it, it doesn't denigrate but build up, and it doesn't promote slackness and titillate, but rather instigate a more positive mindedness towards mental growth. So that's why I didn't really bring it to the forefront, because yes, black female sexuality, and this is why I said it the way I said, to say yes, that aspect of things need to be addressed as well, because I think that we should be whole, but we shouldn't be predominantly unbalanced.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. Is that pendulum at the minute where it's just going to extreme opposites.
Yeah, and it's the extreme opposites aren't good if you're just on one side of the fence. You need to be balanced.
Yeah.
As we say, supreme balancement. That's what blackness represents, right? Go ahead.
The caller rang in and said basically that the topic about the NBA and the footballers is an interesting topic, and you have to delve into why is it the case that black males just go with or look for interracial relationships. It's more than a case of I can date anyone that I want. There must be a psychological or environmental impacts that is making them choose that decision.
I've always, from my research over the years ago, I've always sat on the conclusion, and I acknowledge that things and times change, but the conclusion that I drew years ago from my research was that you have some people that they do that out of love. It's the interaction that they are around, and the people that you're around and you're interacting with. Sometimes you just fall in love with who you fall in love with, who's there and who's compassionate and kind to you. So the color of the skin doesn't really impact on it. But a lot of people do it also for self-hate. They hate the reflection of beauty that their mothers represent, or the lack of a mother in that figure, so they're pre-programmed by media and the negative imagery of a black woman. So they end up self-hating themselves. A lot of men hate their own mothers in terms of they didn't grow up with that psychological balance to want a reflection of their mother, unfortunately.
Can I also add that Nick Cannon said it best?
Oh, see, like say, I wake up at ants nest around here. Let me come up my face good, because I don't want no one to rush me on the road today. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, if you want to take part in the show, 0753-996-8143. 0753-996-8143.
You just basically said that you wanted to know about the Nick Cannon thing. Nick Cannon made a comment saying that white women represent wealth, and why wouldn't black men want to associate themselves with wealth? And basically countered that argument and said that black women represent poverty. Because if white women represent wealth and you're the opposite to a white woman, then you're obviously representing poverty. And that's often the case that these footballers and these basketball players have, is that they're at a certain status where if they now take on a black woman, you're in fact lowering yourself because you're not representing wealth.
I mean, I think Nick Cannon. I think what Nick Cannon means by that is, I can't say he's wrong, in that sense, because a lot of people have placed it in different ways. You have people that say, in terms of contemporary fashion and imagery and sophistication, white women do represent that. And that I've heard that argument years ago. It wasn't Nick Cannon is not the first person to really say that. A fashion designer friend of mine once said that having once you're in that realms of existence, it's seen that of its the opulence and the sophistication is there. However, I think the reason why people are able to say that is because black women aren't being themselves. And I said this last time and I got told off.
Sister Smooth needs to ring in.
Exactly. I said this last time and I got told off. 1 second, call. I'm coming to you. 1 second. I said this last time and I got told off. But what I mean is, we need to be seen as who you are is to represent who you are, and that's the only time that you'll be seen as who you are. If you're reflecting an image that is not you naturally and is of someone else, then the image that you're reflecting is a representation of beauty and success. And henceforth, then when it concludes to the same direction to say authentic as opposed to a copy. Caller, your live. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Yes, I'm Levi, sir.
Greetings, Levi. How you doing?
Yes, I'm not too bad, you?
I'm doing my best. Good to hear from you. New voice. Never heard your voice before.
Sorry?
New voice. I never heard your voice before. First time caller.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, basically, I hear you on your race argument, and it's funny. I saw a show yesterday about people in Gambia, and actually, it was the white women and Europeans going out there looking for the young black men. And some of them helped them out financially and then in the house and stuff. And apparently, one got married to one, so. It's not just about the black man being rich, he's looking for a rich woman also. Yeah. And some of them even actually leave their husbands and go have their fun, so to speak, and then they come back to their husband like all they did was go for holidays.
Very much so. And I had this conversation yesterday with someone, and we were looking at the issue of and again I'm tentative with my words, sexuality of and sexualization of women, and the long and short conclusion from the conversation, I had it with two people. The long and short conclusion from the conversation was that because you have a more free-minded libertarian thinking amongst white women, they do tend to seek out a lot of those scenarios, and they in their remit, it's like there isn't that attachment and that bond that you will have in other settings. It's more just an appreciation of what it is. And a friend of mine once said, in Europe, sexuality is something that is far removed from love. That in England, sex is tied a lot with love and emotions, whereas in Europe it's far removed. And I only started to understand that dynamic when I started to watch the show Vikings. In terms of how it shows a lot of the root basis for European relationships with women. It's far more free natured, and a lot of it is just seen as it's just seen from a pleasure perspective, as opposed to that intimate connection that Black and African people perceive it as. So yes, I can understand that does take place. It used to take place a lot in 80s Jamaica, right, and probably 90s Jamaica, and then I'll still I got their groove back Jamaica kind of stuff. Yeah. Okay.
But still, some of them, I mean, the guy that he spoke to and followed around, he reckoned he loved them. They eventually got married, Yeah, she studied money, and he did a house, look after his family, because basically they were poor. Most of them are out there doing those things. But it's like a hunting ground, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Once they see the opposite to them come out there, they show the man, sorry, running after the woman in the beach.
You know,
it's like, it's like a dog eat dog world. The first one comes, first one gets served,
When we were discussing the topics for today, the producer and I had a big argument about a few days ago about
disagreement.
Okay, sorry, the big disagreement. I stand corrected about whether what women build men up, and oh my gosh, if you see her face inside the studio, she won the argument because I said at the time that from my experience and observation, I should say my observational experience, white women tend to build up men, but you don't get that from other women. Black women tend to choose. Black women don't tend to build wealth; they tend to move in, and it led to this really big disagreement. As she says it, and I said, okay, give me one situation of where a black woman has taken a man that's poor and built him up and created wealth, and she gave me that. And I asked for another one, and she gave me that. And I asked for another one, and she gave me that. Even though these were quite not famous people, she did manage to give wealth and so I stood corrected because it's not demonstrated and showed out there. But in what you see and perceive in general society, you see it quite a lot that white women do that. But unfortunately, all women do that. It's just that it's not shown.
I don't know. I would have to.
When I say all women do that, I would say black women do that as well. Let me correct. Is that better way of saying?
I don't know. Oh, actually, I'm not going to
I'm walking on thin ice with this one, you know. I had to admit that I lost that argument, but yeah, I know where you're coming from, Paula. Honestly, yeah. All right.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
Continue listening and hear the debates across the show. Yeah.
All right, no worries, Paula. Thank you for calling me. All right.
Yes, no problem. Bless.
All right, Paula. Take it. Go ahead.
In fact, I thought about it. I'm going to go there.
Mm-hmm.
In white society,
Mm-hmm.
they practice hypergamy, which is basically the female dates up. They often don't date down.
Mm-hmm. You want to take it? Carry on.
And with black women, we're not really taught about hypergamy. So I think that's a bit of a...
Mm-hmm. So they practice
hypergamy,
mm-hmm.
which is dating up. So
dating up.
in you're dating up in your wealth bracket.
Mm-hmm.
With black women, we're not often taught that. We're often taught you build from the bottom up. You don't necessarily come into wealth.
Okay.
So with white women, I don't think that's a fair comment in saying that white women build up, because oftentimes they marry into wealth. Perfect example. We had the footballer that came from Africa. I can't remember what his name is. He had a black woman.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as he came here, he dropped the black woman when he was making all his money. He dropped the black woman, got the white woman, and had kids, had the family, had the house.
Went broke,
went back to Africa, got the same black woman. Now it's not taken into context of the black woman building up that black man to get into that position where...
I know what you talk. I know exactly. All right, let me take the caller. Let me take the live caller. All right, caller, you're live. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Surgery. This is Ade calling from London.
Good morning, Ade. How you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Right, a couple of things. First of all, I don't agree with that Nick Cannon statement. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
And I also think that it has a lot to do with what type of woman it is, regardless of color.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Now, I was speaking to the producer earlier on, and we were talking about this thing with the NBA situation.
Mm-hmm.
That is a staggeringly high statistic.
Mm-hmm.
You go and look at the football players or the sports stars over here, you probably will find the same kind of high statistics as well.
Yeah.
Now, so we're not going to say people can marry whoever it is that they're falling in love with.
Mm-hmm.
But then, the other thing you're also going to bear in mind is that when you're saying that people, because they don't find people within their own race, within that particular social field of, or career field,
mm-hmm.
that they can just marry anybody. Because when you look at those that they marry, 9 times out of 10, they themselves are not on that same level.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So like they're married into wealth.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you now consider the net worth of all those players in the NBA, or the net worth of all the football players over here,
mm-hmm.
there's a huge amount of money that could have gone into the community.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Just gone out of the community.
Exactly. Pacified cash as well. And the reason I say pacified cash is that because if you're in that situation of a mixed relationship, you no longer are going to be really pro black or pro black community in building up. You get a lot of pacification where they just deal with their stuff and their inner circle and then just wealth creation, unfortunately. So it's like pacified cash.
I would add a comment to that in the sense that, imagine if it was you, let's say you're good at, a certain kind of a sport and you came across, a lucrative contract. Because you're earning millions, you're telling me that's going to change you. You, as you are, Dr. Sergi, would that change you?
No, you see, you can't, I cannot use me as the benchmark because I'm probably going to boost my own self-ego and say I'm the exception to the rule, you know what I'm saying?
Maybe they never had those kind of sentiments within them to start off with.
Yeah, but they don't have the sentiments to start off with, but you have to remember when you're placed into those programs and that channel, when as a basketball star in America, it's a bit more transparent that you might end up in wealth because from school upwards you're in those kind of programs. Over here in the football program, it's kind of like the same thing, you know what I mean? You're going to certain places, you're hanging out because as a young footballer with some of these big clubs, they get, you know what I mean, you start to rub shoulders in different areas, and if your conversation isn't of a certain regard and you can't speak out of turn. I mean, I used to work with a lot of young footballers, and the issue is it's like they're in a situation where if you don't speak in a certain regard, even when you're aware of certain things, you can't let everything be known. You have to walk a thin line in your awareness. You can't just be this super conscious black guy because you won't make it. You know what I mean?
Let me tell you something. I don't know if you saw the picture of
or you can't present it anyway.
This week, where there was a T-shirt that he was wearing. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was a message, that he printed on that T-shirt, which is a loud and clear message. Okay. Now you don't have to be very vocal if you oppose certain things. There's certain ways you can do it.
Who's that? Which sports star was that?
Lewis Hamilton.
No, but you cannot use Lewis Hamilton as the example. Lewis Hamilton went through almost over a decade of extreme prejudice and racism in Formula One. And I mean, in 2010, things got so bad for Lewis Hamilton, they interviewed him and go, Lewis, why do you think all these things are happening to you? And he couldn't even come out and say, man, it's because I'm black. He actually had to say, I'll never forget the interview. Ali G would say, it's probably because I is black, right? He couldn't even say, it's because I'm black, man. But you could see it was eating away at him that he had to find a way of saying it. And he went, Ali G would say, it's because I is black. And even they tried to discipline him for making a third party comment, right? On it. So he went through the mill. But remember, now he's the 6-time world champion, almost getting ready to equal the record. He's the most successful so far driver. So he's now at a point where he's a power broker in the sport, as much as they're still fighting him. But if someone's coming up through the ranks, you can't expect someone to have that position of strong power broking straight away. You cannot demonstrate that, even if that's what you're about.
I do understand that, but after X amount of decades, right, there are those who are firmly established in the careers in the game that as a collective together, I'm not talking about one person, saying and doing something, but as a collective, they can come together and communicate the kinds of things which you see.
And
but it is a very, very interesting.
But who would spearhead that? Who would spearhead that? You know, the one person that was mentioned earlier, Ian Wright. I think them say Ian Wright with no longer with a black woman no more, right? The one person, you see, if there's an elder or senior footballer that could spearhead that and help the young footballers come together and still maintain some form of power brokerage within the sport and not be victimized. You know, everyone that would have been in that position of authority is now being compromised. So what you have is that the older, I heard what's that idiot's name, John Barnes, making some comments the other day, right? And I'm thinking, boy, Johnny, it's too late, man. The horse done bolt out the stable. When you should have been standing firm with us, I don't know what you was doing. And now that your voice is weak, that's when you're trying to come out and say a few things. I mean, they say better late than never. I'm not going to knock you, but when you could have done it, you didn't. So now it's kind of like you're just trying to, as far as I'm seeing, skew the product. So nobody not really wants to hear it, really, Johnny. But me not gonna tell you to stop talk. That's the reality. You get what I'm saying? Because we need someone who's respected, and they're eloquent enough to present it, that we're not trying to destroy anything. We're just pushing to maintain our families and our integrity, and the integral nature of us as a people and as a nation. And it shouldn't be that we're accepted because we mix in. It should be that we're accepted because of the content of our character, like the female caller said during the break. Judge people by the content of their character. So because we're darker skinned or whatever the case may be, and we say, we want to rally together and create a strong community, that shouldn't detract. You know what I mean? Because everyone else is able to do that. The Chinese community can do it without even anyone batting an eyelid. Why is it such a problem when Black folks want to do these things? Everything, you see what I'm saying? So there's either a concerted effort or fear for the energies that we create when we're truly organized to really manifest, or they just simply hate us because we are the dumbest people on the planet. It's one of the two. Because what else would it be? So, and I don't think I'm dumb, so I know which one I lean towards.
Exactly.
Something must manifest.
It's an interesting topic. I think it does deserve a lot more look into, because the business for the past sort of like 3 decades is just crazy, man.
Yeah. No, I think I'm probably one of the few people that will talk about it in the way that I'll talk about it, because everyone tends to avoid these subjects, in it. So, but true, I ain't got no filter. All right, I catch you out here. Yeah, man, respect. Yeah, big up Ade and big up all the callers so far. If you want to take part in the show, I'd love to hear from you guys. 0753-996-8143. I'll give it again one more time. 0753-996-8143. And I always say, let people love who they want to love, irrespective. I'm just saying, in that mix, some people are loving for self-hate, and some people are loving because they just love who they love. You understand? So we have to know ourselves, and we have to grow our children to respect and love ourselves. And we have to watch the words we use around our children. I used to hear people say, like, other kids, they would see,
DJ Blake.
Okay, 1 second, the DJ Blake. I used to hear people say close to the little ones, this child has good hair and ray. And I used to pull them up and say, let me tell you something. And I'll put them people in their place. I teach Black children, if they curly nappy hair, that their hair is beautiful. And the problem with us as a people is that we don't really nurture and look after the hair to show the extreme beauties, because we see a lot of us, we are ashamed of it. But now the natural beauty standard is rising again. Let us keep it rising and pushing. Okay? DJ Blake, how you doing?
Good health and good strength, King.
Yeah, man. Good to hear from you. What's happening?
Beautiful show, my brother.
Thank you. Go on, add to it, expound.
Well, I cannot add to it. Still, I just wanted to hear my voice,
So yeah, me take part of the show, you hear my voice there. Okay, respect DJ Blake.
But what I'm trying to say is that, see, institutionalized racism everywhere, every department.
Mm-hmm.
And from they came to Africa,
mm-hmm.
and dominated us and conquered us, and it was destruction of the Black civilization, of the Nubian civilization of the original Aboriginal people.
Mm-hmm.
This is like a thing whether they want us to rise again. But at the same time, what you were saying, people are waking up, our people are waking up from the fake religion, from so much rape, murder, pillage and killing and everything like that. They've dominated everything what we're trying to do, everything what we dominate, they always put us second.
Mm.
No matter what we do, we cannot please these people.
Mm-hmm.
Until we start get the ball back in our own hand. And this is what they're afraid of, and the black power. for us united back as one. And this is why everything what they do, they try to belittle it. And what they try to do as well is try to put their Moleto against dark skin. Uptown products advertised by red skin people, and downtown products advertised by dark skin people. There's so much negative things what these people do, and they feel so we can't see it. If your third eye is not open, you won't see it. And there's a lot of sheep right now that we are fighting against our one another as well. They put the black woman against the black man, and the black man against the black woman. And just like they put the black man against the black man and the black woman against the black woman. You know, so it's such a positive thing until when you see the light and see how these people are drained. Trying to drain out all our cells or all our DNA, or we have the DNA of our ancestors in us. So that's the only input I'm putting in on the show.
Yeah.
It might be on a different flex, but keep up the good work, King and Queen. Yeah, blessed love.
Thank
man,
you.
much respect, DJ Blake. DJ Blake. Yeah, man, respect.
Yes.
Yeah, so the number to take part in the show, 0753-996-8143. I'll give it again, 0753-996-8143.
Can I add another example?
Go ahead.
There was a video with regards to, I think they were basketball players, and they were all in interracial relationships. And basically they were having this talk where it was like, oh, cheers to having mixed race kids. And it's like, who does that? Who does that?
People
and worse, no, not cheers to having mixed race kids. It's cheers to having a child. Why does the mix have to play a factor in it?
Okay, good point. Carry on.
Right, and that's black men that are saying cheers to having mixed race kids.
So that's what I'm saying. Some people see it as self-hate. That's a self-hating comment.
But we were talking about the discussion of how do black men support black women. That's an issue right there.
How? Because they have to denigrate the black woman by saying
exactly. Just say cheers to having kids. It's fine. You know what I mean? Why is it such a bad thing to have black
as
kids?
long as cheers to having a healthy child, right?
Exactly. I'm just saying there's too many examples with Kodak Black, with
no, me notice I call I want to go live. Call you live and direct.
Good day, sir.
Good day.
Good day, mom. How are you doing? Man, listen to the show. Nice show.
Yeah, man,
Remember, let's have one thing to add. Remember back in the days of slavery,
yeah,
you used to have more like old and class as field Negro than house Negro. But if you look on it today, it's like the table has been turned. It's like the field Negro has become more house Negro than the house Negro himself. Because at one time he couldn't get nothing. But now he can get it because he can run up and down on the basketball court, he can run up and down on a football pitch, he can enter, many places he couldn't enter before. So I don't know what's going on, and the disparity, it can get too great. It's getting too great because I agree with the sister, my stance already.
Yeah.
No matter how the sister stay about wealth, married wealth.
Yeah.
Me now go come in a wealth and leave who me the day with and go take up somebody else and give them our inheritance when it's supposed to pass on to the sister there and the kids there that we have. That's how it goes. Because if you notice, most of them when them say wealth, married wealth, if you look on the sister, them are the sort of person that these brother them pick up the footballer, the basketball player, the rugby player. You talk about ways. Sorry for saying, but the European call them sort of woman there trash. You call them trash bag. And carry it up to the top, and I call him so you remember, the word trailer trash that come from here, It's European, I call him old woman trailer trash. And this is the sort of people that most of our people them pick up and then look down on them sisters.
Hold on, I didn't hold on, let me set the record straight, right? I didn't laugh because of the term trash. It's because you got someone in the background with that said, yeah man, a truth man, and the way it was said and it just echoed through, it's like. But anyway, but people are people though. But let me play a bit of balancement in this because we have to be fair. People are people, right? People are people, and I understand when they say this is a problem that the women that these guys tend to go for, whether they are white women, which is predominantly white women, or whether they are some black women, they tend not to be women that are aspirational in keeping them foundationally sound and strong. These are women that are there simply because of a grabalicious, wealth thinking attitude. So,
although you know him come off painting already, but the babysitter him take up and he was told to leave that babysitter alone by the person who shall babysit from. So we never understand that. And you look on Tiger Woods scenario and you see the sort of female they were the gravitate to. Trash up.
Yeah, I mean Tiger Woods. Now we have Dr. Dre's wife planning to take half his money, even half his name, and royalties off his name. You have so many black stars that have died. I mean, sad to say, but Kobe, his wife is a bit representative, but at the end of the day, she's still, someone that the wealth is gone from the community. So we push people out of poverty within the community, encourage them, get them out, and we prop them up. But then when they make it, they forget that they are a product of a community, and the wealth should be representative of the community, even if it's not to give money to the community, but that it's maintained within self and kind. And when anything happens to them, if it's not, then that wealth is gone back to the source of our oppression. And that's a major issue.
The worst thing about it as well, at least 80, astronomy. At least 85% of these brothers who do them something there is self-hate. You know why we call it self-hate? Because if you ask most of them where their mother never abandoned them and do as best as she can for them, she was the most loved woman in them life. Marcus Garvey said, if you love your mother, you can't take up somebody else when I look like she.
Exactly.
And say, love her.
That's true. Because in psychology, they teach that you have a psychological problem if you do not take up someone reflective of your mother if you're a male, and your father if you're a female. So that you go through a stage of development where you respect that image, and so you're attracted to those that reflect that image. So I would agree with that breakdown, because that's a psychological thing as well, to say that there's definitely a deficiency there when that is not observed.
Yeah, there is. That's just my 2 cents of that try to add in. Becky, I'm about to on this, because guess what? Now sell out the black woman for nobody else. We don't care how much wealth they want to tell us about anything. We bring them along with me and tell them what I will drop off at the bridge. We're not going to take up nobody else and bring them on the bridge with me and them not understand the flight. Because you cannot take up somebody from a next race and expect them to overstand the flight of the black man and the black woman. You have to take up somebody of your own kind, because them can feel the same pain where you feel and overstand everything that we go through. The other races, they can't. And don't be them say them can.
And not that we don't love and respect all, it's just that we have to fix up home.
Well, we never say a lion and talk about you want to look at tiger, I want to look at chicken. I want a dog. You want your own kind. Say it's kind of tough for them, but tell say a person say most love who we want to love, But most of that boil down to psychological and how European use this thing against people and try to dig in your psychic with everything.
Yeah, the media. Yeah, the media has been a terrible place to tell people who and what they should be attracted to, and it's unfortunate that it's impacted our youngsters so badly, and our fellow adults.
Yeah, it's terrible. Remember, me gave a stats recently. We say the Caribbean youth them and Black African youth them now reproduce with one another. Them are reproduce with different races. There has been more mixed race children born in this country over the last couple of years than we don't get with black and black. The number is
the number astronomical. And people now look on the psychology behind it and wait until you say, you're gonna come to a end.
Voluntary genocide. Mm.
But me go and listen now, yeah?
Yeah, man, let's wrap up.
Big up Becky, big up Raoul. Yeah?
So we say big up Becky with the good hair. and different speakers. You know what I mean? So yeah. I don't know if everyone agrees with that position because some people might see that as a bit of an extreme. Oh. We're gonna just take them live, go straight, Carly, I go straight live because the time is short.
Yeah, man, yeah, respect. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I said I wasn't coming back, but I do feel what that man just said, you know, and yeah, that went to me. It's so correct, you know, and if you don't feel that, something wrong with you. But anyway, listen to this yeah. Now, I like the conversation, you know, I'm just listening, and this last little thing with that brother there touched me. But what I'm saying is now, yeah, what do we say with these women then, that these women, when you look at these women, yeah, and the way how they have present themselves with this dead hair, half hair, nylon on their head. I mean, what do they represent? For me, I don't think they represent me. And I'm not a person going to go and put myself with a person like that because they do irritate me as well. You know what I mean? I feel very much let down when them people there come to my view. So I'm sorry to say this, but this is very hurting, you know, what's happening to us. You talk about denigrate or denigrate. We have to denigrate ourselves because this is a slavish mentality that is happening to the women and the men too. Don't get me wrong, but the women, you know what I mean? Because you can't just jump up and blame the men overall for the situation now that's happening. So what happens to when you look at the women them now? When they're in this situation of, as I said, the fancy and all the fun stuff. What's up with that now?
Can I ask a question? Isn't it culturally, especially with Egyptians, we were always known to wear wigs, and it's going to be very hard to get something that is similar to our texture because it's not really it's not really found on any other animals or stuff like that.
Call it there?
Yeah, I'm there, you know. I can't see that because listen to this, yeah. Now if a man build a house, yeah. Do a man build a house and then say, no, I'm not gonna put the roof because of this I build the house and the roof, yeah, is the roof is too expensive and plus the roof don't have any responsibility, like in the sense it don't have any usefulness, yeah. Now you don't see that, yeah. Now when creation has created a man or woman, the hair you can see now is your roof because your hair is your overall, your DNA, your hair is your makeup. This is what tells of your makeup. Now, how a person gonna say that your hair don't make any sense? You know, and you're gonna run math of your hair. No, man, to me that's a spell in itself. That's the first form of, to me, witchcraft in the sense, because witchcraft is a Caucasian thing, as people don't know that. Yeah, as you would say, white magic. I heard somebody saying white magic.
I want to answer the producer caller. I would say to the producer, the Egyptians, they used natural fibers to create the texture that they were going for their wigs. They didn't use anything synthetic. So now we know the synthetic fibers that they use in the hairs in this country and the westernized modern society. We know that a lot of those synthetic fibers, they lead to fibroids forming within the women. So that messes up the synthetic fibers. And then we know that the human hair leads to a lot of immune deficiency symptoms and syndromes developing in the woman. So because yeah, so the whole the stuff that they're using is damaging to their health.
So are you talking about that?
That's the one thing I say as well. When I see these women, I feel like they don't really have like a kind of education and like forget about the education there, but they don't have too much of a wisdom and not wisdom, a kind of wiseness in them, like to say where you can put yourself with them and create a kind of wise knowledge of a kind of scenario.
I disagree on the grounds that I think a lot of women are aware that these things cause problems to some degree, but a lot of them just think that it won't happen to them, or they just think it's a risk worthwhile of taking.
But my question is I think everyone's missed the point of my question is that are you talking about the health implications or are you talking about the representation implications? So if we're talking about the representation implications, then the wigs that they wore
didn't reflect Europeanized images.
But it didn't reflect their natural hair neither.
It did. If you look at the Egyptian wigs, the Egyptian wigs didn't represent a European or Indo-Asian hair texture. The wigs were for those that had to shave their head to go inside the temples to practice the rituals, because in order to be a part of the priesthoods, you couldn't have any body hair on. And as a result of that, you had to shave yourself clean. Now, when you have a bald head and you're interacting in public, then you would wear something that then reflects what you've shaven off. So as a result of that, that's where that comes from. So when you're saying it like that and making it sound like the Egyptians were trying to look like other than self and kind, I understand that you weren't aware of that, but you know,
because Babylon started from Egypt, Egypt that was Egypt before that you might be wanting to talk about wasn't like that. It's the Babylonian Egypt now. Is what you're talking about when you have already conquer Egypt and turn it into a European style kind of thing when they're touching our fire. Why do you think when they hold you in slavery, the first thing they do is cut off your hair? When you go to prison and thing in the Caribbean, the first thing they do, they cut off your hair. Because cutting off your hair is a Babylonian thing. Go back to all this old time book with Rome, and you see that it was always about shaving off your hair. It's a thing with your hair. Study that.
Fair enough, I stand corrected.
It's a strength and your wisdom and your knowledge and your connection to the most, to the cosmos.
Yeah, it's an antenna, as they say. Yeah, man, Carla. All right, respect. I'm gonna look into the here a bit further. All right. No, you get a bit. No, it's all right. We encourage everyone. You don't have to agree with us. You can call in and disagree, and yeah, man. All right, respect. Yeah, big up to all the callers. It's the doctor's surgery. We've talked about so many things today. Let's just summarize, and before we wrap up, we spoke about the black female barrister, which led on to this conversation about the impact on the black woman, which really predominated the whole show in terms of the impact on the black woman. I think it's something that needs to be revisited about the impact, not only the impact on the black woman, but the impact on the black family. And we have to really look at that in due course. And we have to keep it in the context of current affairs that's happening in society that we can see. We found it disrespectful that with the Breonna Taylor case, the police were able to charge the person that actually shot and missed at Breonna Taylor, but the ones that shot and killed her were let go free. So they're telling the police, when you shoot at someone, make sure you shoot to kill them and make sure you hit your target, because if you miss, you'll be charged. So the black woman's life and the worth of that black woman's life didn't mean anything. We know that as a result of that, a couple of police officers have subsequently died, and they have to deal with the consequences of that. I know if it was my family, what I would be dealing with, and it's as simple as that. Because that's an absolute ridiculous philosophy. Then we also have that the parties that are deciding on the vaccine, if you just do some research, the people that are deciding on what your course of medication and treatment in this country should be, have a vested interest in the companies that are producing these treatments. So that means when you hear that there's a natural treatment in Madagascar, none of those will come to light because it won't make none of these I nearly use a wrong term there. These AHOLE,
Yeah, that was good hair.
what I mean, rich. You know what I'm saying? So that's why a lot of those things are fought down in a certain ways. We can see that with the richest man in China now being a vaccine investor. We can see that with the universities telling students, come to university, have that experience, don't study from home. Yes, your course is online, but nothing is better than having the university experience in staying in halls of accommodation and da 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 da. And then when the students get there, they shut them down and lock them in with everything being online. So it just sees that it was just about extortion and extortion money. And henceforth, we are where we are. Until next week, it's the doctor's surgery. Keep watching and keep listening. We'll do our best to rectify and remedy all the current affair matters as we go along. We're going to switch over now back to the news and the advert. Stay tuned, keep listening. Omega.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the documentary that you watched, it was called Good Hair by Chris Rock.